You're listening to the New World to Go podcast with your hosts, Redbyrd and BDLG.
Hello and welcome to another episode of New World to Go. I'm your host, Redbyrd, and with me is BDLG. Bordy, we got a new patch on the PTR, dude.
We do.
The hits
keep
coming. We every week we get something new to talk about. So we're gonna go through that. A lot of big changes here. We all knew this was gonna be kind of a patch for, for update, or not for like new content, but for updating current content, making sure that everything's performing correctly and all of that jazz. So we got a lot of cool details. Me and Bordy have both had a chance to hop into the PTR a little bit, so we can discuss our opinions or what we've kind of seen on the PTR as well. One of the things, Bordy, that I want to remind our listeners, guys, 5-star rating and review. It really helps us out on Spotify and Apple. And just hit the subscription button, the notification bell. If you're watching this, hit the like button on this podcasting video. And that's it, dude. That's housekeeping. Anything you want to plug, dude? You got a new NFT coming out?
Yeah, I do. I do actually. Yeah.
Cool. All right, cool.
A few of them. Yeah. It's a great picture, man. It'll be live soon.
All right, good deal.
Yeah, not really.
Okay,
yeah.
no NFTs from us yet. No. We'll put that note to in this,
coming soon.
No. We have no. Well, let's just move on to the main topic and the news this week. You know how we do it. It is the February PTR patch. All right, dude. So we are going through a Malice post over at newworldfans.com. If you guys want to follow along here, we're using that as a guideline. But it's basically a summary of the patch notes for the February PTR patch 1. And we all assume that there's going to be a couple iterations of this before it actually hits live. And we'll talk why we assume that as we move on through these patch notes. But the first one that we have listed here is Expeditions. Taxodius can only be killed once now. Thank the Lord. I'm tired of turning my back or straying away from groups as they sneak over the wall when I'm streaming. So it'll be great to not have the option to kill Taxodius twice.
Yeah, I didn't know that this existed for a long time. I had no idea you could do this. And so I jumped in Genesis with a pug group on stream for the first time, and I didn't know what was happening. And admittedly, we did it on stream. I had no idea. And since then, I haven't done it since. So thank goodness. I'm glad they're patching it and getting it out. So there's no pressure from groups to do it. I have also been in groups where they have done it, and then people are sitting there saying, "No way, dude, I'm not doing this." And then it causes all this discord amongst the group, and then I've seen people get booted from the group from doing that after they paid for their orb. So it's been kind of crazy, man. So I am glad that they are getting that out of the game.
Yes. I just, again, these are housekeeping things that one of the things that surprises me a little bit is how long they let it go on. I mean, it's been going on forever. I'm pretty sure, a good chunk of the player base has used this. I don't know if you want to call it an exploit or not. It is an exploit. Technically, you're getting extra drop, but yeah, I mean, what are we getting? More blight seeds? I mean, I try to make that argument with my groups every time. Do you really want another stack of blight seeds? Is that what we're attempting to get here? So nonetheless, I don't think not a lot of harm's being done by killing Taxodius twice, but I'm glad that it's not an option anymore for people.
Yeah.
Right here is unable to join an ongoing expedition if you attempt to join the wrong one. I don't know what that means necessarily. Surely it doesn't mean if someone, if you have to kick someone or boot someone that you can't find a replacement, right?
I honestly have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll look in the official patch notes and we'll come back and check that. The World one, you can no longer camp stack, which is sad, dude. I like seeing the towers of floating camps running.
I hated it, dude. I'm glad I absolutely hated it. I'm glad that they're removing that nonsense. It drove me nuts, man. I'm glad that is getting out.
Yes. Well, I mean, to each their own. I had fun climbing these invisible towers and trying to get to the top of the map. But I can understand where it might be a little bit immersion breaking if you're into that kind of thing. So one of the things, they fixed an issue with large orichalcum veins. I guess there was some clipping issues, which there are a few of these in the world, Bordy. One of the ones that comes to mind to me is the hives in Garden of Genesis with the Void Blade. I constantly climb, like as I'm attacking these hives, I climb them. I go over the top of them a couple times. Sometimes I got to stand on top of it and cut down at the ground. Like there's some clipping things. I assume that they'll get around to fixing all of them, but I think it's a hitbox issue. But it seems like at least the large orichalcum veins, it's been fixed, and then fixed a wide variety of collision issues around the world. So hopefully that does include our Genesis one as well. Here we go. General new AI changes. New player versus AI collision that will help against pushback from colliding players. Currently against two-legged monsters. This has been a problem as well for a long time, attacking or hitting the hitbox of some of the larger models of AI in the game. So it's good to see that they're addressing these.
Yeah, for sure, man. All these are good changes so far. It's just nice to see them continue to work on the bugs and the issues that are in there, which I'm sure new things get added with each patch or whatever. I can only imagine like the amount of detail that has to be paid attention to the code. Whenever you change something, it seems like it messes something else up. I have no idea. I'm not in the developer world, but that's how it seems to work. So I'm glad that they're just fixing all these things, man. These are not anything huge so far, but everything so far has been good.
Yes, sir. So to clarify the previous statement, it just meant that I guess you could join an ongoing expedition from another expedition entrance. So if you could join a ongoing LAS group if you go and click on the Genesis doorway, which I did not know was a thing. I don't know why that would ever be like a strategic approach to save Azoth or something. I don't know what people were using that for. I don't know how they figured it out, but it's no longer a thing. So there you go, chat. Stop doing that.
People figure out most of these things. Like some of the exploits that happen in the game, or some of the things that people figure out. Like I have no idea how do people just stumble across it? Do they like intentionally try these things? Like I have no idea how that works.
I guess so. I'm sure there are people looking to break the game in various ways all the time. So reduce pushback on blocks. A lot of these you fall under the category of collision. Fixed AI creature specific things for ogres, dryad soldiers, elemental brutes. So they went through and did a whole pass on hitboxes and collision with mobs. I think overall it's going to just make the game feel better, right? So expedition AI, Garden of Genesis Blighted Greenskeeper now has a larger head for hitbox purposes. Again, falling under these. Genesis Shaman Mist attack is now synced properly between the visual and the damage. And then Angry Earth Naga improved visibilities on attack. Again, I don't know if we want to go through all these specifically in detail, but just know that they're making the game feel better, and look better through these visual and hitbox cues.
Yeah, I think we're about to get into some of the meat and potatoes of the patch notes here, though. And I think the next one for the Expedition AI is a pretty big one, actually.
It is.
Yeah, and then beyond that, I think we're about to start talking about some stuff that's a lot more interesting than all of the fixes we went through. But so far, everything's good, right? We want all these things to be fixed, we want all these things to be changed, and so let's jump into this next one here, Red. This is an interesting one, I think.
All right, dude. And now everybody's favorite expedition boss, Shards. It's getting some big changes here. It's no longer going to be a left-click simulator, or in my case, turn on Flamethrower and then go get a drink of water because there is no interaction for DPS or the tank or really the healer. Yeah, you just literally stand there and left-click. But the stun phase is now 5 seconds. Phase 3 will start after 90 seconds rather than the 75 seconds it once was, so it gives you a little bit of time between the laser beam phase, which is like the healing check of Chartis. Reduce the downtime of lasers in phases 1 to 2 from 60 seconds to 30 seconds. Increase damage in all aspects of attacks. Final laser, and I believe that was a pretty significant percent of increased damage. Final laser has changed to do 15% of health per second, which is huge. Has a bigger head for hitbox purposes, which I don't know. Chartis, when do I ever attack his face? I I don't know.
Whenever he falls on the ground, man.
Well, when he
Whenever
falls on the ground, yeah, but
Oh.
sure. That's a massive head. So
It's pretty easy to hit it.
Is now weak and strong to attack types that are affected by weapon coatings. So basically, I would assume he's an ancient or of ancient origins. So your coatings and
which is pretty interesting. Yeah, that part of it's pretty interesting because used to you could just go in there with whatever weapon you wanted to. So you could take your strongest weapon in there and just go to town, right? So your fire staff, whatever, didn't matter.
Spear,
just go in there and do work. Now you're actually going to have to use what you're supposed to use against that type of enemy, which is quite nice.
Yeah. So you should overall the fight should be a lot more dynamic. Chartis will be doing more damage. You'll be doing more damage against Chartis. You'll have more phase. It seems like the phase of damage or the opening to deal damage will be increased. But overall, you're going to get punished more for having to dodge. So one of the things that come to mind to me, most people just stand up against him. The one that almost everybody in the group gets hit by every time is when he like pushes his fist forward and kind of leans onto the platform. And he always knocks everybody down and does enough damage. I think that's the real thing that could change the fight, is if you don't dodge that, then you die. I think that could then make the fight a lot more interesting. But overall, like I just think Chartis is still going to be a pretty simple boss.
Yeah, it sounds like it, man. I don't know what they would do to change up the mechanics of the boss, with the arena, the way it's set up. I think they'd have to change it up quite a lot. So I like these changes, though, because Chartis was just very, very mindless. I mean, everybody just kind of sat there and left-clicked, and then you had your healer sitting in the back just laying down heals. So it was just kind of boring. So I am glad that they are addressing Chartis. It's nice to see that they understand that was an issue and that they're taking steps to make Chartis maybe a little bit more interesting.
Well, and I will say this, we obviously have discussions about things like this on stream all the time. But they listen to the player base. You can't deny the fact that they are able to provide good changes based off of player feedback. And that's something that I see all the time, dude, is they are constantly listening. They're constantly figuring out, what players want or what the best changes for these would be. And I think, a lot of these changes that we're seeing in the February update specifically are directly from player feedback. The Chartis fight is obviously one of them. Everybody knows that Chartis is kind of a brain dead, for lack of a better term, encounter. So hopefully now it'll be more interactive, we hope. So one of the quick changes to mutators, this is a specific mutation. The desiccated mutation timer will be dropped from 60 seconds to 45 seconds. That really only applies to the mechanic in that particular mutator if it is active that week. But a good change. I think making these a little bit more difficult is fine. Combat general, weapon swapping. So these are interesting. Can now swap during hit reaction, dodges, transversal, and using consumables, except a weapon coating. Obviously, you're coating a weapon. You can't really swap it. Imagine peak min-maxing, Bordy, when you as a group are min-maxing the amount of time it takes to apply a weapon coating. I couldn't imagine complaining about that. Doing so will apply a 1 second cooldown between swapping. So there is a limitation to which you can weapon swap, but a 1 second, not significant enough to notice, I don't think, for most people.
Yeah, these are some pretty big changes right here. The weapon swapping in general is pretty big. On the PTR, there are a few of these things that do feel good and a few of them that don't right now. So there's some things that are going to have to get adjusted, and some of these bugs are going to have to get worked out with weapon swapping, because the weapon swapping bug that is supposed to be fixed, I think, with this patch is still there, where you switch off of your weapon. You have, like, say you're running Warhammer Great Axe, you switch from your Great Axe to your Warhammer, and you're still using Great Axe abilities or whatever. Like there's still some weird things that happen that they need to fix, but overall, like this weapon swapping, and I know we haven't gone through all the different things here yet for weapon swapping, but like this is huge. This is really, really big. This is something the players have been wanting for a very, very long time, and I'm glad they're finally addressing weapon swapping. And I think overall it's going to work better. I don't know how much you tested weapon swapping on the PTR, but I tested it quite a lot, probably for an hour. I sat there swapping weapons on stream the other day, and it does work better. It is nicer. It is going to take some getting used to from the way it works now to the way it works on the PTR. But once people get used to it, it is way better, man. Like the way you swap weapons, I think what they have in mind is going to be way, way better than it is now, without a doubt. And so that part of it, I'm very, very excited about. Some of the other stuff we're about to talk about here in this next section, not so much. There's some things in there that's really kind of wonky on the PTR, but this so far, man, it's headed in the right direction for me. I am excited that they're addressing this finally.
Yeah, they got to get the weapon swapping bug out of the, like, that's one of the most tilting or game like breaking things that are in the game right now, is having the appearance of having an active weapon and being on the other weapon, like trying to use cooldowns and abilities and blowing them, because some of these cooldowns are 20 seconds. Blowing them because the game is not giving you the correct information. I think that's a big problem. Weapon swap and attacks can now be queued simultaneously. Swapping buffers will no longer be canceled if you are staggered before the swap. So it seems like, if you do get staggered, you will still do that ability, which can be bad or good, man. I don't know. We'll have to see how that works out long term, but I think specifically means weapon swapping right now, right? You get staggered and then you will swap the weapon.
Yeah, it's like if you queue up your weapon swap and then somebody hits you with a Path of Destiny or something, you're still going to swap your weapons after you're staggered, right? Which I think is fine. It feels a lot better. Again, like I don't know how much you tested it, but I tested this a lot. And swapping whenever after you get staggered, it feels better. It feels way smoother because you're not having to sit there and constantly click on the button over and over and over to switch back over to your other weapon, and then you accidentally switch twice or whatever the case may be. Like you press the button, it's going to switch, but the timing of which it switches, that's the part that I'm talking about. It's going to take some getting used to, because whenever you switch over, the timing is a bit different now, because you right now in a lot of situations you're just tapping the button trying to make your weapon swap because it's buffered and it's not going to switch over until you hit the button again. Then whenever your weapon swaps over, then you can start doing your stuff again. In this case, you hit it swaps, but it swaps. You don't want to just press the button because you're going to swap back over to your other weapon, is what I'm saying. So it's like it's interesting, man, and I think overall it's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, one of the great things about the combat in New World is the using your light attacks, your heavy attacks. A lot of MMOs really don't even require you to do that, right? The auto attack or whatever you want to call it. New World's combat, the base of it is very dynamic and skill based. And instituting some of these things that help preserve that in the long term, I think are going to be great. We're going to talk a lot more about that here with the blocking and dodging changes. Shorter recovery time after a dodge. Basic attack startups can now be canceled with block or dodge. And block and dodge inputs will now take priority over weapon combos while attacking. So that means basically you can animation cancel with a block or a dodge. Bordy, again, giving more power to the players, right? And I'm a fire mage, a fire ice mage. There's nothing more infuriating than queuing up a few auto attacks and then needing to block or dodge, but then having to finish your attack pattern. It's frustrating to not be able to directly input or cancel out things, and now we can, dude.
Yeah, so this right here is the biggest change for me, like out of this patch for sure. Like the movement is a little bit weird now. Like the whenever you dodge and all, we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But this whole being able to cancel your light attack, your heavy attack whenever you block or dodge is incredible. It is so nice, because as right now on live, we've been running so many mutations and so many dungeons as a tank, and this is just specifically on the PvE side. But as a tank, whenever I'm tanking in those dungeons and I try to if I cast an ability at the wrong time, or I'm like heavy attacking or something, if I do that at the wrong time and then I get smashed in the face by the Genesis boss, which doesn't happen too often anymore, but it's like there in the beginning, it's awfully nice to be able now on the PTR to cancel that really fast and either dodge or block. Now, one of the things that's very, very wonky on the PTR that they have to get fixed is the dodge canceling animation. I don't know if you mess with that at all. Did you see that? Whenever you light attack and then dodge, you like roll in place and it uses no stamina. It's completely broken.
Yeah, there's a lot of
on the PTR.
With, I think the light dodge, it doesn't feel. It feels very like jarring when at the end of the animation. There's a lot of things that I think need to be cleaned up. The concept of the changes are good, but yeah. Like what you're saying is like some of them don't work out in the PTR at the moment.
Yeah, on the PTR right now, whenever you swing your weapon, you can cancel mid animation and block, and that works really well. Or at least from what I tested, it works really well on both light and heavy attacks. So whenever you light attack and you try to block, it works, man. It cancels your light attack, it blocks immediately, and it's fantastic. Whenever you light attack and you dodge, though, you light attack, you dodge, and you do this really quick, goofy roll in place, like you don't even move. You don't move anywhere. You light attack, dodge, and you dodge in place, and it uses no stamina. Like it's not even an actual dodge, so it's completely broken. If they fix that, it'll be super nice, but there's also some issues with the actual dodging in and of itself that I think we'll talk about here in a minute. But overall, that right there to me is one of the best changes, hands down, because it's also incredible for PvP. You can now do like feint attacks if you wanted to. You can fake attack somebody, fake light or heavy attack somebody, and make them blow an ability. Like you can make them try to dash out of the way or use like their evade shot or use something and whenever you're trying to fake like you're going to heavy attack and then go into a block or dodge. And I think that's pretty incredible. I think it'll add some depth to PvP. So that change to me is awesome. I absolutely love it. They just got to make the dodge part work right before it goes to live.
Yeah. It just, that again just helps with how the combat, I think in my mind, should feel, which is basically there's all these like feigning and, knowing certain attack patterns, certain, whether like, how to counterplay in like PvP. I think that's the main thing, right? PvE is pretty easy to know an AI's behavior or everything like that. But when PvP is where these changes really shine, I think, is where you can cancel blocks or cancel light attack in a block or, dodge roll out of a light attack and stuff like that. The PvP to me is where a lot of these changes make the most sense. One of the things that we have here as well is jumping off lower height. Objects will no longer trigger fully committed land animations. This is kind of like a I guess a housekeeping thing. I never really had a complaint about the jumping off of things other than I feel like maybe fall damage is a little bit undertuned in the game, but I don't think anybody's complaining about the animation of these. One cool change here is the 300 focus attribute bonus will now kick in at 15 mana or less. This one and then the fire staff one, the mana regen perks are pretty underwhelming. So I don't know how they could improve that, but they are trying at least with this change.
Yeah, I think so. Back to the jumping thing, though. I didn't test that on the PTR very much, and I wish I would have. That's one of the things I haven't looked at yet, and I want to jump back on there and test it because it is like whenever you jump off of a small little ledge, you do get stuck in an animation sometimes, which is a little bit tilting for me, at least. I don't know that it's a huge deal, but sometimes it does. Just the movement of it feels a little clunky because you jump off this little bitty ledge and then your character gets stuck in a full-on like stopping animation before you can run again. And sometimes like if you're trying, especially like OPR or something, you're trying to jump off of a small ledge and run off, or you're trying to like smoothly make an exit or an escape or chase someone down is a better option. Like you go over the little ledge, you jump off because you're trying to cut someone off. You can't cut them off because you jump off a little ledge, you get stuck in an animation in there, and that's just enough for them to get away. Like those types of things are a little irritating. It makes perfect sense. If you jump high off of something and land, you're stuck. But if you're jumping off a little bitty ledge where you should be able to leap down and keep running, that's going to be a good change, I think. But I haven't tested it, so I don't know how well that works. But I think that's kind of a nice change for sure. I like it a lot. And then the 300 focus bonus, I don't use that. I don't use focus. I'm not a healer, but I have heard of people that say that doesn't work. Like the focus bonus doesn't work real well when you drop to 0 mana. So now dropping to 15, it should help it quite a lot. Again, that's something I didn't test either because I have no build that I use now or maybe will ever use, maybe one day, but I have no intention of using a focus build anytime soon. So I didn't test that at all. I wasn't very interested in that part.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I believe. Let me double check real quick. But I believe the perk for the focus thing was 200% increase to regen, which it was barely noticeable at all. Even the fire staff one, which I think is a 500%, is not even. You always want to go Rune of Helios almost just because of how weak that perk is. So I would like to see these potentially even further reworked in the future. But at least they're making changes because they acknowledge maybe like the how invaluable they actually are. Like when I heal, I don't ever push to 300 focus. I just feel like there's no reason to do it even. I sometimes don't even go to 250. I just hang out in the 200 range. So I think a lot of these threshold perks maybe need to see some love somewhere down the line, because some of them are a bit underwhelming, but at least they are paying attention to that. Equip load descriptions have been updated to include the amount of stamina consumed when dodging. I think obviously a great little housekeeping thing, just to note that. So now we're kind of hopping into the weapons here. Now, a lot of these weapon changes are basically fixes. If you want to read the specific fix, you're going to have to look at the patch notes. There was just a lot of issues, I think, with certain bugs with weapon abilities. So then if you're interested in the details, you can check the patch notes. One of the big things, dude, and this is as a mage, I guess I see it as a big thing, is fireball projectile radius was increased from 0.01, Bordy. 0.01 to 0.33. So, dude, people complain about missing fireball balls and the hitboxes of fireball. There's your reason. It's literally a like 1% or whatever. Yeah. It's a ridiculous amount of radius to hit a skill shot like that. It's a projectile, a lobbed one at that, and most importantly, Bordy, we got the fireball crit back, baby. And now fireball can crit again. All mages can rejoice.
Yeah, man, I think that I am not a mage player. I'm a strength player, but I like these changes to the fire staff for sure. The fire staff was, I think, underutilized right now. I think it was in a very not a great spot, right? Like for mages, you see everyone running around with Void Gauntlet, Ice Gauntlet, and for good reason. They were incredibly strong, and thank goodness the ice spikes got fixed, or got nerfed pretty hard, because that was a little bit much. I think landing that ability should do quite a lot of damage if you land it correctly and you can hit all of the hits that's supposed to take place with it. But at the end of the day, getting one shot by that when you're in heavy armor is not a good thing. So I'm glad that they fixed that part of it. And so now I think you'll see a lot of people running around with fire staff. On the PTR, I'm not a mage, but I have played with the fire staff some. And on the PTR compared to live, the fireball feels incredible. You can actually land your shots. You can actually aim at people, and it will hit them. And the crit seems to be working. It feels very nice, man. And Pillar of Fire, I don't use that ability on live very much at all. I really don't use the fire staff a ton, but when I do, it's usually like with fireball, burnout, or something else, just messing around. I don't really use Pillar of Fire a whole lot. Well, Pillar of Fire, comparing the two, does seem to work a little bit better too. It's just faster, right? The animation is faster, or not the animation, but the time between the circle being on the ground and then the time it actually exploding or whatever it does is faster. And so on the PTR, I did test that some too. It felt good, but I think the big takeaway here for me, at least, is the fireball changes, and they do feel really, really good on the PTR, or from what I tested. And again, I'm not a mage player. I don't play it a lot on live, but just from my limited experience with the fire staff, it does seem way better. And I'm happy for the mages, because fire staff was kind of an underwhelming weapon, or has been for a little while. So I don't know what this will do. I think a lot of people will be running around with fire staff now, maybe, but I was happy to see this one come in.
Well, yeah, you talk about the Pillar of Fire changes. It's important. I mean, obviously, it's a very small area of effect, so the delay between the cast and actually hitting it, you basically could only use it in large groups of people. It was very challenging to hit in like duel situations or like 1v1 situations. They also reduced the recovery time, which is another big thing, I think, of abilities in general. The recovery of animation on some of these abilities are way too long. Kind of lock you in. And in a game like New World, where, player responsiveness and everything is a big key in success, I think reducing the recovery on a lot of those things make a ton of sense. I'm a flamethrower guy. You know that. They made some buffs here to flamethrower base movement speed so that the haste buffs have a more notable effect. The new movement speed is approximately 2 times faster than it was before. So, dude, I'm booking, bro. I haven't tried it with the actual flamethrower. Oh, yes, I did. When me and Danny were testing the Gravwell changes, I did test it with accelerated flamethrower, and dude, it's fun, bro. You pop a couple stacks on your enemy, and dude, you're speed walking, just like if you're holding the torch in Genesis now. You're getting around, dude. So it's kind of, I mean, the perk's still gonna be trash, if we're being completely honest, but at least it's fun to play with now. Let It Burn had an issue where burn status effects from Fireball Burnout and some of the passive abilities were not triggering Let It Burn. Which is I believe it's just to make it. I'm pretty sure it's the perk that you crit. It gives you a burn stack. I'll double check that real quick here before we move on. But overall, yes, Fire Staff's getting a big buff here. It's important. One of the other changes that's pretty interesting and a lot of topic, or a lot of people are talking about, is Gravwell, dude. Big changes here. They updated the damage area to match Vortex visuals, reduced Vortex pull force, allowing players a chance to escape. Pulling force ends just before Vortex damage occurs, allowing people to dodge out. I tried that several times. Not the best plan. Removed unintended damage from the initial pull and area effects of Vortex, and updated and clarified the description of the ability. So here we go. You used to play a lot of Great Axe, dude. These Gravwell changes, people are afraid that it's basically not going to be used at all now.
So initially, first glance at the Gravwell changes, especially on paper, you look at those and it makes you wonder why, right? Like, I did the same thing whenever I seen them. I wondered why. I was like, what in the world is happening here? Like, Gravwell already, Great Axe got a pretty big nerf last patch anyway, with the lunging for the Great Axe, which probably did need to happen, but I think they might have went a little too far with that, if I'm being honest, because using the Great Axe now feels rough whenever you're trying to lunge at someone. It seems like it's not quite 3.5 meters, but that's another topic for another day. The Gravwell changes in and of themselves, I thought were maybe not necessary, but I think at the end of the day, Gravwell was not really working as intended, right? Like, it wasn't sucking people in like it was supposed to. There's a few things that weren't quite working well with it, but you did, if we're being fair here, every single build in the game, unless you're running something like, I guess, Life Staff Void Gauntlet or something, you could get out of Gravwell, man. So making it to where you can kind of just walk out of Gravwell is a little bit goofy to me. I don't know, but on PTR, it does seem like it's okay. Like, whenever you suck people in, it's more, Gravwell is more used for group play now than solo, than dueling, right? Like, I think before you could duel with it, you could get somebody stuck in there and you'd be fine. You could just go in there and go to town on them. Now, not really so much. If you're dueling somebody, they're going to get out of it a lot easier, and then it is what it is, right? But if you're in large groups, if you throw a Gravwell in a large group, like on the PTR, if you throw a Gravwell in a large group, it does kind of suck them in a little bit faster. And I think it still works okay, because typically in large group play, you're going to use the Gravwell, and then you're going to follow up with some other CC, and then continue to follow up with the fight to kind of clear out the groups of people. But I don't know, man. I'm still on the fence about this change. I think overall it'll end up being okay. I think maybe there was a little bit of an overreaction. I overreacted to it too, probably. And then after testing a little bit, it seems a little bit better than what everybody thinks it might be, I think. But still, it's like, I don't really know. I'm on the fence, man. I really am on the fence about the change. I don't know, man. To me, it is what it is. I think it'll be fine at the end of the day, but I don't know what the end goal was there, unless they just really thought Gravwell was not working as they intended it to work, you know?
So yeah, it's tough to say. Real quick before we push on, Watch It Burn is the crit burn, and Let It Burn was just basically every time you have a burn stack on an enemy, every time it ticks, it gives you a Fortify stack, a 10%. So now you should be getting your Fortify stack from all of the different burn sources. Which is good. To the Gravwell changes, though, I think it's complicated, because in my mind, we did a lot of testing on this, and you can escape the ability basically with everything except dodging. There's a window to dodge at the very end of the animation. But for the most part, you can just walk out. You're just slowed, right? It's just basically slow. Any ability in the game gets you out of Gravwell. And here's my my thought chain on this, and I think a lot of Great Axe users would agree. I'm fine with that you being able to use another ability to counter an ability. But what doesn't add up is, and I think a lot of people complain about, well, Shower and Scream don't allow that. You cannot use an ability to get out of the root, which, you know, I think a lot, Gravwell used to be a root, not a slow. You know, here's my thing is like, let's just make it across the board that if you have a movement ability or some sort of movement ability, you can get out of a CC, like a soft CC or what would be considered a soft CC in these abilities. I think that would be a shadow buff to Gravwell, because then in that way, Ice Shower and Scream would be kind of nerfed a little bit. But right now, I think the main complaint is that they're nerfing Gravwell into the ground, but Shower and Scream still exist, which are basically like hard roots. And if you get hard rooted in a fight, you're dead in New World, especially if there's a lot of people around.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? Because you have stuns, you have slows, you have roots, and they all work quite differently in New World. And whenever you get stunned in this game, you get hit once and then you're out. So it makes
stun's
really
like the worst CC in the game.
Yeah,
which just doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah, especially in PvP and especially in like OPR when you're not playing coordinated PvP. There's been plenty of times where I will stun someone thinking that I'm about to get the hit, and then some goober head from across the map will shoot them with the musket and they'll run away. And it makes me real mad. It's like, man, I just made an incredible play here. I stunned this guy. He's about to get worked over because I'm getting in position to like backstab him or whatever. And then somebody shoots him or hits him and then he just runs away. It's useless. So it makes roots much more valuable. And the whole argument with Gravwell is like, you're right. There's other abilities out there now that are much more powerful than Gravwell, which makes it feel a little bit bad. But overall, I think Gravwell maybe just if I don't know if they think, you know, maybe Gravwell is just intended for those situations where there's just a whole lot of people grouped up and you throw the Gravwell to follow up with CCs, and that's what the ability is intended to do. Maybe they felt like Great Axe overall was still just a little bit too strong. I don't know. I felt like personally after the last patch, Gravwell was or Great Axe was okay, right? You didn't see tons of them running around, or at least on our server. There's still people using it, and you want people to still use it, right? You want people to use every weapon in the game. But right now, the game is taken over by Ice Gauntlet, Void Gauntlet, and Rapier. That's all you see everywhere you turn. And it's like there's a problem whenever you see only those weapons being used, or a vast majority of people using those weapons. And I felt like Great Axe was okay. Like, I don't know. It is what it is. We'll just have to play with it. But again, I'll say the same thing on here as I say on my stream all the time, is like, these changes don't really worry me that much, right? Like changing the meta and adjusting abilities don't really worry me too much. They're going to come back and change this again later. It's an all the time, ever evolving, ongoing situation where the meta is going to continuously shift. It's the big changes that I focus on, like the dodging and the blocking and the weapon swapping and all of the like actual mechanics of the gameplay. That's where I get hung up, and that's the changes that I want to see, and I think they're heading in the right direction there. These changes for all the weapons we want to see weapons work correctly. That's my biggest thing, right? Like whenever you use an ability for a weapon, I want it to work how the description says it's going to work. And right now there's weapons that don't really do that, abilities that don't do that. But I think this patch is fixing some of that. So overall, I don't know, man. I know I went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but
yeah,
it is what it is what I'm trying to say. Like Gravwell changes are what they are. They'll adjust it again later on down the road is what's going to happen.
That's one thing that you can't deny is the game's only 4 months old, or maybe 5 at this point. And it's had a couple metas already. So that's a good news, because a lot of games lock in for 6 or 7 months, and that's kind of the meta. That's how it shakes out, basically, right?
Yeah.
You're just stuck, in class MMOs, you're stuck to re-roll that class. If Resto Druid is the best healer in World of Warcraft, well, you better roll a Resto Druid if you want to heal, because no one's getting to get, no one's getting an adjustment for a while. And New World has at least made adjustments, and the system is classless as well. So it's not preventing players from doing that thing, but to your point about everybody running around with Ice Gauntlet, Void Gauntlet, or Rapier Life Staff, or Rapier Bow, that will eventually happen because of the classless system. So it's kind of a counterbalance, right? Is like, yes, anybody can do this, but do we really want everybody running around and one-shot ice spiking each other in PvP?
Right.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's where some of the other like really outrage comes from, is because Great Axe got this huge change and then absolutely nothing happened to Void Gauntlet, really. You know, and so it's like, okay, you know, well, why did nothing happen to the Scream, or why did Void Gauntlet not get reworked when us as strength users are using the Great Axe? And I don't use the Great Axe anymore, but it's like I can see the frustration for sure, because you don't see that many Great Axes anymore. You do see some, but you don't see a ton like you used to. But you do see a boatload of Void Gauntlets and other weapons, and it's like those particular weapons really didn't get a lot of changes, but then Great Axe got another nerf. So I can see the outrage, and I guess my advice to those people would just be to stay patient, because Great Axe will once again see its day in the spotlight for sure. Well, it's gonna happen. Like the meta is gonna continue to shift.
Yeah, and to that point, Ice Spike got a big nerf. So
it got fixed, is what it did. It got fixed.
Well, I think you were able to, you know, necessarily control. It was a skill shot that you're able to control, and now they've kind of made it to where you can't hit those stacks on a human player. I think those stacks will still hit like in PvE, right? But they just basically changed the attack pattern to where all of those projectiles that happen in spiky reach, they'll no longer all spike on one player, which is significant, because that was where the killing power came from. That's how you killed the spike. You could hit spike, but unless you hit with spiky reach, you weren't one-shotting people. And so now that's basically going to be happening a lot less frequently now. They did fix some other things, other bugs with the other abilities, but to your point, no nerfs to Ice Shower or Scream. And again, you know, Gravwell was unique because Gravwell, you can throw it. The range on that route was massive, but you've always been able to use an ability to get out of Gravwell. And I think that is the main thing with Scream and Shower. Sure, now you don't have the setup with Scream and Shower. Maybe they think that is kind of the nerf to those abilities, because now you don't have the ability to take advantage of that setup, right? You can't you can't necessarily end the fight with the spike. Now you do have to do some damage, but the Void Blade still exists, and last I knew, that does a butt ton of damage. So I'm sure a lot of these mages will just go back from Ice Spikes back to the Void Blade.
Probably so. And here's the thing. At the end of the day, this game is a very skill-based game, right? So whenever you're fighting a Great Axe user, you should know or have knowledge of the game that they have Gravwell in their back pocket, right? So you should know that, well, I probably should save my movement cooldown or my escape from Gravwell. I should probably save that cooldown until they blow that cooldown. And then if mine comes back up before theirs, maybe I can utilize it again to try to get a kill or something. You should. That's part of this game, right? This game is not just going through your rotation, blowing all your cooldowns and managing your cooldowns in that manner. This game is like utilizing your abilities at the right time, utilizing your light and heavy attacks at the right time, specifically in PvE or PvP is what I'm talking about here. So it's like, you know, the whole argument of, oh, well, Gravwell is so insanely strong. I think that argument is moot, man. I think it's a bunk argument, because you literally can get out of Gravwell using so many different abilities. And as a mage, if you burn your burnout while you're fighting a Gravwell user and you use it at the wrong time, and then you get stuck in a Gravwell, that's on you, buddy. Like, you shouldn't have burned your burnout. That's what makes me mad. It's like, dude, you're complaining because you got stuck, but then you have all of these other like escape abilities, and I think that's where the frustration for Great Axe players are coming. And I can totally understand it, man.
No, and I'm not saying that at all.
It doesn't make sense.
The point is that yes, there should be a counterplay to Shower and Scream.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Yeah, you should be able to get out of them somehow. Yeah,
and honestly, these routes, you know, Gravwell is no longer a route. It's a slow, which is kind of, I don't know. It still gives obviously some window there to take a lot of damage, but you can get out the same though. So it is a pretty significant nerf. Because you can still use your abilities to get out of it, and I just think that, you know, because of the nature of stun, which is generally the most hard CC in an MMO, because you can as soon as you take damage, you are available to dodge. I think we need to let the ability potentially Shower and Scream get canceled out with an ability. But I think we probably beat that horse dead at this point. Life Staff. Or no, one quick change to Ice Gauntlet. They did increase the AoE to 3 meter radius from 1. This is on the Pylon Burst perk. So if you use Pylon, which I know a lot of ice mages doing dueling, got a little bit of a buff, but not really that big of an ability in like wars and stuff. The haste of speed of light will now apply to all targets within AoE, not just allies who are healed. The tooltip has been changed. That's a life staff change. Musket got a pretty significant rework, Bordy. A lot of the abilities here got changed. It's interesting. Musket really doesn't have a place at all in PvE, but none of these changes really were kind of placed to help it there. Now it's just basically, still a PvP weapon, but a lot of good changes, I think, to help the weapon's strength.
Yeah, it seems that way. I don't use the musket a lot either because, again, I'm kind of more of a strength player. But you have stopping power is an interesting one because it just got completely reworked. It no longer empowers your next shot, but it now like knocks back your target if you hit your target. So I don't know. I don't know how musket players feel about that. It seems like you lost a little bit of damage to gain a little bit of CC. Like I don't know. What was stopping it? What do musket players typically use stopping power for? Was it a long range shot that they just tried to pop people with, and so now it's
Well, it was a stagger.
It staggered before.
Yeah. So, and I think one of the things that's challenging with musket is you have these traps and the stopping power and everything like that. Yeah, I think a lot of people use power to burn as well. But the challenge isn't necessarily of using these abilities. It's like what else is there to use instead of the musket, right? And I think that's where and this is kind of I guess to the point of the great axe too. None of the weapons around the musket were adjusted that significantly that would be competing with a musket. So even if these changes are as pretty good, I think the musket needed a little bit more to make it really good. But this is the problem with the musket, and it will be until the end of time, Bordy, is this is a weapon you have to be extremely careful with because it is a hit scan weapon that people can take advantage of. If this ever deals enough amount of damage, it will break the game. You know what I mean? We've
seen that happen.
We've been through metas
a couple times. Yeah,
we've been through metas where musket, if it can deal enough damage, it's broken. Like it really will become a first person shooter and outpost rush and stuff. And then you have people like Shroud that again, you could have a high uptime of accuracy, and then you're no one's touching you. So that I see why they're adjusting these abilities and not the actual like musket itself, but. I think these abilities are pretty weak compared to, like Fireball or, Rain of Arrows or things like that just make the other weapons so much more impactful in wars and stuff that it's going to be hard to adjust these abilities and make them strong enough for the musket to compete in large group PvP. There's always a space for like a sniper to do siege damage or to try to pick healers or stuff. But, maybe that's where the musket's intended to be. But a lot of these abilities changes didn't really change that, I don't think. Loaded shots can now be overridden. Activating one of these shots to load a shot while the other shot is already loaded in will replace the previous shot with a new one. You probably, I would assume, do not get your cooldown back. So I'm glad that this is the case, but, I think it's still not a great idea to cancel a loaded bullet unless, I guess you just need to apply like the stopping power or something at that point in time. But they did reduce they increased the cooldown on stopping power. Stopping power's hit reaction animation changed to better match the timing. Stopping power can now be fired from aimed sight or hip fire, which what was it before? You could only probably apply it aiming down sights, I guess. And so now you can hip fire as well.
I would assume, yeah.
And a lot of different changes there. Again, we'll see how these play out, but I can't imagine this severely impacting the place in the meta of the musket.
I don't know what'll happen to the musket, man. I would imagine it'll still get used about as much as it does now. It would be my guess.
That's what I think. That's what my takeaway as well. You can let us know in the comments below if you feel differently. And obviously, I think a lot of these passes, Bordy, or a lot of these changes to the game are going to get even further adjusted as the PTR kind of strings on as well, I think, from feedback. A lot of other weapon fixes here. Again, if you want to look at these yourself, make sure you head over to the original patch notes. Anything else that you can think of that's impactful in these changes?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just say the weapon changes is what I meant, because we have one other really good big change to talk about that'll kind of cap out this entire conversation. And that is Outpost Rush.
I do have one other weapon change to mention really fast. No, it's fine. So the hatchet did not get any changes, unfortunately. Rip. I'm a hatchet boy. It got nothing, love whatsoever. But I know it's a little broken on live right now, but I think that's fixed on the PTR too. So don't worry about that, guys, if you're worried about it. But there is a really good fix. I was talking earlier about how I just want to see all the abilities work how they're supposed to work, right? Like that's really what I want to see happen in the game, regardless of the meta. And the one ability that they did change is Leaping Strike for the Sword and Shield. It feels incredible now on the PTR. So if you're a Sword and Shield user that has used Leaping Strike in the past, like me, I moved away from Sword and Shield and Hatchet. That was my combo in PvP. Really enjoyed it, but I moved away from that because Leaping Strike was just so inconsistent. If someone was close to you, you would whiff. If someone was far away, oftentimes you would whiff. You had to be at the exact distance to land that ability. Now on the PTR, you can land it very consistently, and it feels excellent. So that was probably the biggest change to the sword and my big takeaway there. So just wanted to mention that real quick before we moved on.
I'm glad you did, because the sword and shield I think is a fun weapon to use and not just for tanking.
Really good.
Just for tanking.
It feels it's a lot of fun now on the PTR to use that ability.
Yes. So again, there's more details here, but a lot of them are fixes. Go check those out in the patch notes. Again, the last big change here, that I think is a big change, and I think you feel the same way, is now in Outpost Rush, you will be able to earn Umbral Shards. We a lot of the community played or complained about not maybe having PvE is the only source to earn these upgrade materials, and that's no longer the case, Bordy. You will be able to earn Umbral Shards through Outpost Rush now.
Yes, which is incredible. I'm glad they listened to that feedback and implemented it into the game, and I think they'll continue to do those types of things for PvP. The last patch was really PvE heavy, and I really wish they would have just brought this in whenever they brought the patch in.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they didn't. I don't know why that wasn't thought about, to be honest with you. I don't know why that was something that just didn't make it into the game, because their overall vision for the game is to have both of these things coexist, right? We hear them say that all the time. They want PvP and PvE to coexist in the same game. And it's kind of hard to do that whenever you're pushing everyone into doing one activity to progress in the game, because literally right now on live, the only way you can progress is you can go get gypsum for Umbral Shards for Outpost Rush, but let's be honest, they're so minimal that you're never gonna ever catch up with anyone. So if people are running mutations and you decide you want a PvP all day, you're never going to be on par with those people, because they're gaining 6,000 Umbral Shards from doing a mutation 10, while you're gaining literally like 20 from doing an Outpost Rush that took you an hour to do to get your enough gypsum to get it. So this change to me is so good, man. I will be in OPR a lot whenever this patch goes live, because I like the PvP, and so that's what I'll be doing. I really wish this would have just went into the game sooner, man. I think if they would have released the mutation patch along with having OPR give you Umbral Shards at the same time, I think things might look a little bit different right now. But I'm just glad they're implementing it in at all, right? Like, I'm glad they listen. I'm glad they're sticking it in there. I don't want to be forced to do mutations every time I log into the game to feel like I'm progressing. That gets really boring. And so I'm glad that now we have another option, or we will soon whenever this goes live.
Yeah, for sure. And overall, I can't imagine why it wasn't instituted at the same time as mutations, but maybe it was just to highlight mutations as the new activity. I don't know. That's in February. We won't have to worry about it anymore. A lot of changes coming to the scoring. The way scoring happens, dealing damage will increase your score now. Reduce the amount of points you gain from killing players. No, still, and I think we will continue to wave this banner. We got to get the down state out of Outpost Rush. The kills that did not change. You still do not get a kill or credit for a kill if you down somebody. You have to finish them off too. A little bit silly, but hopefully it will be changed in the future. Maybe even, dude, maybe if enough people complain, or no, not complain. I don't want to say complain. Maybe if enough people make a point of it before the patch goes live in February, maybe we'll get it before then. I would love to see that. A lot of changes to the brutes, ongoing issue in there. Summon brutes now take 200% bonus damage from siege. It deals less damage, has more health. All of those things. They increased the viability of siege weaponry in there. A lot of people don't use that. My boy Stitch does, but I think he might be the only person ever to put up siege weaponry in Outpost Rush. So now hopefully becoming more and more viable. Again, you're going to get 100 shards for a win, 50 for a loss. Great changes there overall, Bordy. And most importantly, or not most importantly, but equally as important, they're fixing the drops, hopefully, in Outpost Rush. Now the caches are literally worthless. You get a green 590 every time you play. And there's no, there's no basically... no point in opening that cache other than to get it out of your inventory. The thing about it is now also is that they've changed the way the actual weapons and armor work, because they're slanting the stats or the perks on the weapons to match up with PvP. So now we're getting more resilient, and we hopefully will not be getting Ancient Bane or Ancient Ward, excuse me, on our armor in the Outpost Rush. So hopefully, dude, this makes grinding Outpost Rush a more viable way to get geared for PvP, the actual activity that it is.
Yeah, I sure hope so, man. And I think it is pushing in that direction, which is fantastic to see. One of the things that I really, really hope gets fixed, though, above anything else in this entire patch, I don't care about the changes. I don't care about anything that happens unless they fix performance, man. Performance in OPR and in dungeons and in open world and everywhere. If the performance is not fixed, none of these changes matter. None of them. Not a single change here matters unless performance is addressed. So I hope and pray that this February patch fixes that. And I think that they are pushing in that direction, it seems. And I really, really hope that's what happens, is that we jump into OPR for these Umbral shards and it's just smooth. There's not desync. People aren't stopping. And then 5 seconds later, they'll be all the way at Baron whenever you were all the way at Sun. And then they just skip ahead, or you just desync through abilities or whatever. Like if that stuff's not fixed, man, I don't know that much of these changes are going to matter. Same thing with dungeons and expeditions. Like if you continue to lag out in a mutation while you're trying to run a mutation 7 or 8 or whatever, and you've used your shard, and yet you lag out on the boss and everybody wipes and you lose your gold or even your silver and you can't progress because of lag, that is a horrible feeling, man.
Well,
it is
and what's kind of crazy, it's gotten worse.
Very angry. It's gotten worse.
We've lost several keys, or at least the rating of a key to lag only. We've wiped. You get off team wipe, and it's pretty rough to recover on an M7 or something. Wars.
We got to fix wars, man. Just performance overall. If it's fixed and these changes go in and everything's smooth, man, New World will be back on the come up. I really do believe that. The combat's really fun still. Everything about the game is really fun. These changes all overall are excellent changes. Performance has to be fixed, man. It has to be, dude.
Yeah, and that's a great punctuation to this thing, is none of these changes really matter if the performance of the game doesn't work. A quick note here before we do move on to the company of the week. The smelting set will finally be added to the game. No more days of having to, basically forego the increased amount of Asmodium or Orichalcum ingots that you can receive as you smelt these materials. So now you can get a smelter set and hopefully get more. Hopefully it fixes the economy, because right now the only extremely valuable thing is mining stuff, is your ingots and ores. So hopefully that'll even that out a little bit with the rest of the cooldown mats and all the economy, because Ori on our server gets up to like 3 an ore, not just an ingot, an ore. So yeah, the huge gap in between those things. Hopefully this set can do a little bit to help narrow that. But I think they're going to have to eventually maybe look at the amount of nodes available and everything like that in the game as well. Bordy, all right, that about does it, dude. Again, these changes, a good first pass. We do expect them to, I assume by the next time we do an episode, we'll have more to talk about the changes, PTR patch 2, and hopefully there's, some of this feedback or feedback from the the community will get implemented too.
Yeah, hope so.
All right, brother. So let's move on to our company of the week. This week, it is... the
Britannica? Yeah, dude. I thought you were queuing me in.
I was just switching windows, but yeah, you go ahead.
Oh, jeez, Luis, man. See, you can't. You fake queued me in right there. It didn't work.
Yeah, I feigned. Yeah. I'll take responsibility. Yeah, sorry. Yep, this time it was my fault. Still batting like 800 or 900, but that's okay. Go ahead, Bordy, with the Britannica Trading Company.
All right, yeah. So the company this week is the I can't talk through now, Red. You got me flustered. Is the Britannica Trading Company, right? So the Britannica Trading Company was founded by an active duty Navy veteran. The focus is centered around building a community of individuals who enjoy the game and want to have fun. Their goal is to be the main retainer for different companies for production of materials and crafted items, as they want to become a jack of all trades. In addition, they are newly created, so they're seeking consuls and officers for the company to manage the different departments that they're going to have. So it says they place high emphasis on creating a positive atmosphere, respecting each other, and acting in a mature manner. They're all on the same team, and they want to make sure that everyone feels a part of the team, the community they are building. So it says the speaking of voice is not required, but they want to put forth an effort to communicate effectively and in a timely manner. So if you guys are interested in a trading company, it sounds like they're very heavily focused in all trade skills in the game. Go check them out. The Britannica Trading Company. They are an NA East company, and we'll make sure to post their Discord link everywhere this podcast can be found. Yeah,
shout out to our veterans, and that reminds me, we got a couple good fellas in our company. We love them. Good to see a veteran ran company as well. So thank you guys for using New World Fans to promote your company, the Britannica Trading Company, and thank you to all our Patreons. We appreciate you guys. All right, Bordy. Well, next week I'm sure we'll have more stuff to talk about. A pleasure sitting down. Hope you guys enjoy these patch notes. So let us know in the comments below what you guys think so far of the February update, and if you've gotten the chance to play it on PTR as well. We will see you guys. This wraps up 105. We'll see you guys in episode 106. I'm trying to work on a guest. We got one lined up, but I'm not sure what episode he'll be able to be on. But we got exciting stuff to announce for soon, so stay tuned. Hit that subscription button for more stuff like this. And Bordy, that's it, dude. You got anything to say when we close out the episode on? Anything? Any more like dad names you wanna, is that Dad Gum, or what was the one you I forgot which one you used earlier when someone interrupts your stun, you said
for Pete's sake, maybe.
No, it was a name, and it was a name.
Jiminy Christmas, maybe.
You know what? I'll go back and listen to the episode once it's live, because I have no idea. Thank you guys. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you on another episode of New World to Go.